Good. Okay, cool. So, yeah, thank you very much, Eleanor, for this invitation, and hello, everybody. So, we will try to present some of the Dragonfly initiatives that we can have across the channel, as Eleanor said. So I really thank you for this invitation. So I'm Martin Jeanmougin. I'm working at the Museum of Natural History in Paris, and I will be today a bit the spokesman for several people and projects today. And I will try to present some success, issues, perspective, sorry, we can have around dragonfly research in France. And I want also to thank Renaud Baeta that is not here today with us, but that helped to preparing this presentation, and also Valerian that also helped to prepare this. So I will present some of the projects you can see on this slide with the STELI, the CIMaE project, the SOGAP, and also a research project that is called the Dragon project. So as you may know, data are quite useful for research project and conservation actions. And here you can see on this graphic the cumulative number of dragonflies data per year in France. And as you can see, it was pretty low before 2000, and then it started to grow quite quickly thanks to several projects that was led by the former French Dragonfly Society, and also by some project like the National Red List Assessment that was published in 2016. And this clearly helped actually in France to gather this data set, and especially that opportunistic data set, and to gather them together. Best data also led to scientific work, actually. So quite recently, we had this research paper that was published by Renaud Baeta, that was about trying to detect the effect of intensive agriculture on odonata using citizen science data sets. That was in the central part of France. And most of this data actually comes from opportunistic portals or online web portals or applications, and are very useful for research. To better frame conservation actions around odonats in France, the French Ministry of Ecology developed what we called in France National Action Plan. So one is currently implemented for odonats. It is actually the second one that exists, and it covers 33 species out of the more or less 100 species we can have in France. And these dragonflies were prioritized by conservation status, mainly based on the National Red List assessment that was made in 2016, but also based on the Habitats Directive annexes and over level of national protections. So the map that you have here on the left show a bit the distribution of species and then endemisms in Europe, and you can see that France and mainly the southern part of France has a high rate of endemism, which give quite a strong responsibility for France for conservation of the species. So the National Action Plan is based on mainly five axes with implementation, trying to improve also knowledge for action, trying to create network and exchange dynamics, and also to work on management, protection, and conservation of the endangered dragonflies, but also on awareness and training. And some of these actions are especially focused on setup, monitoring, and inventory protocols for these priority dragonflies. So that's why also this National Action Plan helps to develop several monitoring projects in France. So I will go through this kind of existing monitoring initiatives we can have. So as you may know, monitoring initiatives are based on quite classical standardized protocols that were also discussed during this international symposium that was in 28, I think, and it was in Wageningen, if I'm correct. I think some people here today participated to this symposium. And this standardized protocol, usually they rely on sampling strategy and also a measurement of the sampling effort. For example, you may know this quite classical pollard wall transect, or it could be something quite similar that is used for standardize the sampling effort, for example. And this kind of data are usually less biased than opportunistic data and also useful to calculate temporal population trends that are based, for example, on abundance counts and that ultimately, we hope, try to inform conservation action and policy. However, one of the issues is that this kind of standardized protocol can also be very time consuming for observers, especially if they are volunteer, if they do this on their free times. And usually also it needs specific tools for collecting the data because we want to collect data with specific, for example, environmental variables or things like this. And this also change a bit the habit of observers that can collect the data. So it could be difficult to engage people in this kind of standardized protocol. So the first one I wanted to present today is a STELI, that is the name of the French Dragonfly monitoring scheme. It was created inside actually the first national action plan for odonats, and it started in 2011. And it was made in collaboration between the Museum of Natural History, the French Office for Biodiversity, and the former French Dragonfly Society. So the field protocol of this monitoring program actually is based on occupancy modeling approaches that at this time were innovative new statistical tools to calculate reliable species population trends and, for example, allow for trying to take into account species detection processes and other quite cool stuff. However, the issue that it demands important sampling rules. For this protocol, for example, so you have three sampling windows during the whole season. And for each of this window, you need to make three samplings on the field, three sampling sessions. So that's quite a lot for observer. And if you want to do the whole season of dragonflies in France, so from the spring to the autumn, you need to make nine field sessions during the season of a minimum 30 minutes. That is quite a lot for observers in general. So if we look at the dynamic of participation of this program, here you have a graph showing a bit the participation over time in terms of number of sites we can have for the STELI. And the colors show the number of sessions made on each site, with yellow sites with a lot of sessions, 9 or more, and blue sites with less than 4 or 3 sessions. And we can see that the first dynamic of participation was quite good, helped with specific fundings. But we can see also that the participation stabilized quite rapidly to around 120 sites, so more or less. And at the end, actually, of the first national action plan that end around this date, we can see that we have a huge and dramatic decrease in participation, and because there was an end of the fundings for the national management and facilitation and dissemination of the project around France. And we can see that the participation decreased quite a lot until 2021 when the project management restarted thanks to the OP and new fundings associated with the project. So we can expect that this participation will continue to increase in the next year. So this is the lastest data we have for now. But it looks that the participation on this project is for sure very dependent on fundings to work well. Something we can also show on these graphics is that most of the participants usually only do 3 or maximum 4 sessions per year. And so it means that they do not cover the whole season of dragonflies if they want to respect the protocol. And we have very few participants making more than 7 or 8 sessions a year because it's quite time consuming. So we can try to actually use this existing data set to calculate population trends. We can do this using more classical statistical approaches, like the one that is used in TRIM, for example, that was developed initially for birds. And also because if we look at the data set we have quite good level of determination, mainly to the species level, and more than 75% that are actually precise counts or abundance estimations. So we can try to use this data to calculate trend. So this actually led to this kind of results we can have here. You have this for two very common species. So on the left it's Ichneura elegans, and on the right it's Anax imperator. So we have on 10 years the temporal trends with, for example, for Ichneura elegans, a non-significant trend, so more stabilized population, and quite a lot of interannual variation that can be observed. And here for an axe imperator, for example, we have a significant increase in abundance during the 10 years of the project with quite a lot of also of interannual variation, but an increase. On we were able to calculate actually this kind of trends for 26 most common species in France, and these results were more or less congruent and correlates quite well with other kinds of trends that were calculated. For example, the one that were calculated for the new European red list. Um, However, what we can show is that for some other species, I don't put the graph here, but for some other species, like for example, Senagrion puella or Libellula depressa, they show a significant decline through this analysis, and this was not very well expected actually. So why? It is maybe because we need to be very careful with this kind of analysis. So I mean, calculating national scale trends that are based on very few sites. Here on the left, you have the sites repartition of the STELI in France. And you can see that this is quite biased, actually. We have a lot of sites in the northern part of France and quite very few sites in some other regions. So rather than calculating national trends of donuts through this program, we are more calculating the trends of the northern part of France that is quite bit different. So we really need to be careful around this. And also another thing on this graph, you can see the percentage of sites with the number of years of monitoring. So all these sites were not followed, monitored a lot of years actually. Most of them were just monitored 1 year, so 60% were monitored only 1 year. So this is an issue when you want to calculate temporal trends for odonates if you have mostly sites that are monitored 1 year. So for sure, we can calculate trends, but we need to be very careful on what they means actually. So how to improve this for the STELI? So we try we want to improve the participation to actually improve the reliability of population trends we could calculate. So one main option for sure is that we could try to simplify the current protocol and try to maybe abandon the complex statistical framework we used initially. And this will help to remove some field and protocol requirements for observers like the repeated sessions they need to do during the sampling window, and make it easier for observers to merge, for example, also their local scale monitoring initiatives with the national scale program. And finally, also, maybe it's a bit a specificity of France, I don't know, but it looks quite difficult to have one unique protocol to monitor the diversity of odonates and habitats we can have in France. And it might be more effective to have targeted complementary protocols, monitoring protocols for some particular habitat of species. And actually, it's what we have done in France, taking advantage of the second and current national action plan for dragonflies. There was some initiatives to create a more targeted monitoring scheme, and this is the case, for example, for the SOGAP. SOGAP is a monitoring scheme for endangered, more large river species, and focus on six species. That is here: Ophiogomphus cecilia, Gomphus gralini, Stylius flavipes, Oxygastra custisi, Macromys splendens, and Paragomphus genei. And so it's really focused on this species. It was launched quite recently in 2022, and is also focused on XUVIA sampling that is quite different from a sampling on adults. But if you want to follow the population trend for this species, for example, it will be really more effective to have an XUVIA sampling than adult abundance sampling. And actually, the STELI monitoring program was not very well adapted for this species. So there was a lack for monitoring program for this endangered species. So there was this development of this protocol that is quite different. So I will go quite quickly around this, but it is focused on rivers. So for each rivers, you have like a random drawing of 250-meter grid cells. And if you are an observer, you can pick randomly some grid cells along a river. And you need to do 3 surveys per grid cells between the 1st May and the 15th of August. And you have to do XUVA collections along the waterline. So you also need to be careful about the different habitats category you can have inside your grid cells. So you need to make some transects that are classified along different kind of habitat that you can have here, and that depends also on biotic and abiotic variables like the current speed of the water, the type of riparian habitats, etc. And you need to report this kind of elements. So the survey can be carried out with your feet, so in the water, or by canoe too. Both are possible, and you need to be very specific on XUVA. So this project is quite recent, but still we have some result to show. For now, there is a bit more like 340 grid cells that were monitored over the 3 years of the programs, and around 25,000 XUVI that were collected. So the number of grid cells is improving, so it's good. And it also make more than 100 structures that are currently involved in the project. That is quite good. And it's mostly focused along the main river in France, so the Rhône Valley, the Garonne, and the Loire River, where it begins. It began actually. So the main analysis were done by Renaud Baeta. Renaud Baeta is actually the SOGAP project manager. And one of the first study he made is based on a larger data set that was a preliminary uh, uh, like protocols that were made on the Loire River and that started in 2015. So it includes data from the SOGAP. And Renaud Renault tried to model actually the exuviate densities as a function of distance from the Loire estuary. And as you can see, for there's two species, so Stylurus flavipes or Phiongophus cecilia. This allow us to identify distribution zones, so locate also the population centers along the river, and so understand to what extent this population are confined to specific geographical areas. And you can see also that it depends on the species. So Stylurus flavipes is very closer than Ophiogophus cecilia to the estuary. And this means that if you want to protect the Loire River and the habitats of Stylurus flavipes, you will not clearly protect also the place where you have a lot of exuviae of Ophiogophus cecilia. So this was the first preliminary study Renault made on this project. And also, the idea is trying to follow this density over time. So trying to see if the population are really located at these places or if the emergent sites change over time. Another things that were made is trying to calculate actually monitoring, trends of species, population trends. This was made by a master student that is Chloé Cartron, and she works on the full data set of the Loire River, so between 2015 and today. And results, as you can see, confirm and quantify a reality that was felt by observer on the field. So the collapse of Stylurus flavipes that you have here between 2015 and today, and also the one of Ophiogophus cecilia with a large decrease in abundance of this species during in very few years. In contrast, here on the left, you can see that for Onychogophus forcipatus, that is a much more ubiquitous species. It remains quite stable. So this also are preliminary results, but it shows things that are really felt on the field by observers. So it's quite interesting. So what are the next development for the SOGAP? An online platform actually to collect the data was just released a few weeks ago. So this will help also to disseminate the program and make it more effective. And also one of the ID maybe, and we can also discuss this, is also trying to expand the SOGAP to other European countries that could be interested in following their species that are specific to large rivers. So that could be an interesting point to develop in other countries. So I will switch now because I'm a bit late. So I will try to switch now to the another and the third monitoring program I wanted to present today in France. So we now go to completely another kind of habitat we can have in France. So alpine habitats. And Marie Lamouillebert, that just actually defended her PhD, sorry, a few days ago, create this program that is called CIMaE. CIMaE stands for Climatic Impact on Mountain Aquatic Ecosystems, and because as you may know, the alpine ecosystem are among the fastest and the most uh, place where there is an increase in temperature. So it's very underdrugged. And so alpine ponds are currently decreasing, especially at low altitudes, and they are becoming more and more ephemeral, so with a lot of dryness during the years. And so Marie Lamouillebert created a project around her PhD, actually. So initially, it was more or less a research project. So it was a research project focused on alpine pond sampling. It was not only on dragonflies, it was also on amphibians and plants, but she wanted also to follow some species. So it was, I think, 8 species that were followed in this monitoring programs. So, for example, Echna juncea, Echna caerulea, Somatochlora alpestris, or Leucoria dubia. And this is also species that are covered by the current National Action Plan. So she developed the project along her PhD, and it finally began a citizen science program. That the idea behind was to trying to mobilize, to raise awareness, and to get people involved in the protection of wetlands, alpine wetlands. And this is based on also standardized protocols with 2 annual sessions per site, with imago and XUVA counts, also a 30-minute sampling, and with a specific determination key and environmental variables. So this also leads to some quite interesting results that comes from the PhD of Marie. And here, for example, you can see a graphic showing the occupancy probability of species along the dryness of the alpine ponds, and you can see that whatever the species or the taxonomic groups, you can see that there is a huge decrease thanks to the dryness of ponds, and this is something for sure that will be even more important in the next year with the climate change. So this is quite interesting and important result for the conservation of alpine ponds with the particular Odonat species we can have in France. And so Marie is trying to improve the CIMaE protocol, so to improve the data collection. She's starting to creating a new app based on the ODK um, tool, and she want to translate to several language actually this tool to improve the knowledge of alpine ponds, but not only in France but also in border countries like Italy, Switzerland, or also in the Pyrenean mountains in Spain. So she wants to create a European group on biodiversity of high altitude ponds, and this will be for sure focused at least a bit on dragonflies. So as you can see, we have several monitoring schemes in France. So this means there is several choices for observers to choose which kind of a monitoring scheme they want to do. The time that observer can dedicate to standardized protocol is very limited. So we thought with all these people that there was a need to clearly exhibit actually the compatibilities and the complementarities between these protocols, and trying to answer to this question a bit. If I have to do only one standardized protocol, which one should try to prioritize? And so this led to the creation of like a hub in some way, like a new platform that is called Vigie Libellule. And the idea behind is to respond to this kind of question that an observer can ask, and trying to redirect and guide the observers towards the closest and the most appropriate monitoring scheme for the need he can have. So trying to show him that if he wants to follow dragonflies on rivers, he should better do the SOGAP, and if he's more interested in mountains, he should make the CIMaE project, etc., trying to help them. So now I wanted to quickly present a few minutes, but I wanted to quickly present a research project. So we can see that we have quite a lot of data and monitoring project, but how we can move from this data to research and actions. So we have also, as you know, some accumulative calls and evidences that we should work for better inclusion of dragonflies in conservations. And we took actually the advantage of a call in France from the Ministry of Ecology and the Office français de la biodiversité to create a project around dragonflies that is called the Dragon Project. So dragonflies as bellwether for the human impact on European wetlands. So it's not only on France, it's also at the European scale. So the timeline of the project is like this. It started in 2024, so last year. And for this project, we have a postdoc during 2 years that just began in last November. So it's Lisa Nickver that I think is here with us today. So if you have any question, also Lisa could will be able to answer to his questions. And so this is a consortium of researchers that work on this project. It includes 12 people coming from 8 different institutes in Europe and worldwide. The two main principal investigators are Colin Fontaine, that work at the Museum of Natural History, and Reto Schmucki, that work at the UK CEH, actually, that you may know because he's also working a lot on butterflies in UK and Europe. And so Lisa Nickver is a current postdoc working on the project, and so that could answer to some question today if you want. So what are the main objectives of the Dragon project? So main objective, the first one is to gather the data set across Europe and also assess a bit the acquisition methods or the protocols that are used to collect this data. One of the idea a bit behind also is to consolidate maybe a future European database that will be under the supervision, sorry, of the Dragonfly Conservation Europe organization that I think Roy will present this afternoon. So this is also a bit the idea to make the things becoming more together in some way. The second objective of the project is to calculate reliable population and distribution trends at multiple spatial and temporal scales. So this trying to assess and adapt the current statistical methods, to combine the standardized data to inform, for example, opportunistic trends, and to trying to make also not only species-specific population trends, but trying to use ecological traits to have multi-species indices. So this will rely on the work of, for example, Tim Termat on his PhD. And then what we want to do is to link these trends with human pressures and trying to co-develop relevant indicators with stakeholders. So trying to look at some human pressures like habitat destruction, land use and land cover change, pollution, fragmentation, and for sure climate change, and trying to have very effective indicators that can help people on the field to better understand the current state and trends for dragonflies. So, and finally, for sure, the idea is to disseminate the result and ensure an effective knowledge transfer. So along this project, the main idea is to work clearly with stakeholders that are involved in conservation in dragonflies in France and in Europe. So the research consortium of this project will closely interact with a consortium of stakeholders during all the projects. So right now, this is some of the stakeholders and organizations that are involved in the Dragon project, and this is clearly not a closed list. Everybody is. We are very happy to share our research and work with any new organization that would be able or want to engage on this project. And just quickly to finish, a small focus on where we are right now on the data gathering and the acquisition methods. So as you can see, we try to integrate data from several countries in Europe. So we have France for sure, but we also have some opportunistic data from UK, some Belgium, Netherlands, and we are working to have data also from Germany, Switzerland, Italy, and Spain, Portugal. And we are trying to work again to try to make all this data all together compatible to make quite relevant analysis at the European scale. And another things we want to do is to make a questionnaire, a survey around the European dragonfly schemes, trying to analyze a bit the success and failure for the dragonfly schemes, and at the end, trying to offer maybe some guidelines on how to implement this kind of monitoring scheme at national levels. And as you can maybe I try to present today in France, we have a bit of experience around this kind of monitoring schemes, but we faced also a lot of issues trying to engage observer and participants in this aim for monitoring dragonflies. So that's all for me. Thank you very much for your attention, and sorry I'm a bit late, but I put here some contacts for the different projects, but I can try to put them also in the chat if you want to contact directly the people that are in charge of the different projects. Thank you.